Hello and welcome at Change Talks podcast. This is where I try to bring people insights, tips and tricks how to deal with change. And the best way I think how to do that is to talk with people who actually made substantial changes in their career, life or business. And my today's guest is not different. He's a man who started his career in GE after completing the financial management program. But the true milestone of his career was when he accepted the CEO position of Slavomat Slovakia, which I think we can say is a Slovak version of Groupon, kind of, right? And he grew that company from literally 0 to 1 million earnings over just a couple of years. And this is something that probably most managers would retire on, great success, but not him, because he actually these days is starting and building his own startup business. This man is Aleš Mlátilík. Aleši, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for the invite.
Cool. So let's talk about the change.
Change Talks, your passport to exciting changes in your business, career, and life. Change Talks, your podcast when it's time to do things differently.
Actually, it's maybe good to say at the very beginning that we are former colleagues, and I have to admit that when I was preparing for this podcast, it was it was kind of unpleasant, moment. You know why? Because when I was checking the dates, I realized that we know each other so many years, and we first met. Do you know actually when?
Yeah, I think when I go back, so I joined GE 2005.
Yes.
That's when that's when it had to be, right? So that's where we probably met. And I think you've been one of the assignment leaders for us, for FMP, for the financial management program.
Yes, it was in 2005, which realizing that makes me feel very old, which is contradicting with my mental inner image, of being forever young. But whatever.
The same applies to me, don't worry.
Cool, yeah, really, it was in 2005, and maybe for the listeners, the financial management program was a special program for, fresh university graduates. It was for 2 years. And you went through series of assignments, courses, classes, and the idea was to prepare you for top executive roles in financial management, right? Yeah, and 2005 was the year when actually I was my last year as the coordinator of this program, and you started. So maybe I think that this program was quite interesting because. It was perhaps the first time where you had to deal with a lot of changes in your life, because all these rotations, assignments, different teams, different jobs. How did you cope with that?
I think back, today it would have been different than back then in 2005 when I was a fresh graduate from university. And I think that was I had really no idea what to do with myself in terms of career, whether I should go and do, I had no idea which industry, which role. It had to be like a junior role, of course, because I had absolutely no experience. And at that time, it was not normal to have a real practice when you were still studying. So I went for, internship. But it was still not enough at that time to apply for some serious position. And this, for me, was a perfect starting point for actually, number one, it was a big company, so big name, so that was a good for me. And number two, I actually clicked with the idea of the program that you have 2 years to actually decide what you want to do in your career, whether will it be finance. Will it be which part of finance? Because finance is very broad, so that's where we met. So finance from controlling, financial planning and analysis, accounting, be it whatever we name it. So I thought that was a perfect point for me to start. I had no commitments at the time. I was a young student, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to, learn the business, travel a lot, because we had 2 assignments abroad. So I was I think in London and in Ireland. And it was just, a perfect start for me to realize that actually at that time GE was the right place to work.
Yeah. You mentioned that, that GE was a big brand those days, which is actually also quite interesting story, because today when you say to somebody that you work for GE, most people are just saying, well, what's that, right? Those days it was the biggest company in the world, and which is kind of weird that, sometimes we think, okay, this company is too big to fail. Nothing is too big to fail, right?
That's what we learned, yeah.
Yeah. That's what we saw, unfortunately, in real life, right? Yeah. So you mentioned these rotations, 2 assignments abroad, which for some people could be quite already demanding. But after completing this financial management program, you took another quite interesting challenge, which was the corporate audit staff within GE. And again, for our listeners, there was only short-term assignment for 2 years. I think it was the maximum. And it was either the career booster for the people or complete disaster, right? Depending on how you performed. And these people were traveling the world on very short assignments, a couple of months, right? In different businesses, and trying to find there something, what is some opportunities, some financial reserves, and whatever. So it was living out of the suitcase, right? Really always on the journey. How did you cope with that personally?
I think for me, again, it was one of the biggest challenges was that I think when I spoke with the people responsible for the program, it was very new for Czech Republic and Slovakia, and I was told, hey, very few people, if any at all, before had actually applied and got accepted. So don't even try. Don't be disappointed when you don't get accepted, and that. At that time was for me the challenge number 1. Hey, I'm gonna show you that I will be accepted as a whatever number 1 or 2 or 3 from the Czech Republic, and then yes, the program was actually, when I thought the first entry level, so the financial management program was demanding. It was nothing compared to literally that other advanced program. And as you rightly said, it was for me it was a career booster. Definitely, the program was actually minimum 2 years. I mean, if you could have ended any time before that, but there was on a bad terms. Either you were not performing or you didn't get well with your health, because there was hardly sleep, traveling all the time, very demanding, and a stressful environment, not seeing your family, your friends, no one. So it was really tough. But for me, it ended up as being the career booster. And when I look back, it was actually one of my steepest learning curves on that 2 years program. Because number 1, I traveled the world, so I got to know different cultures, different leadership styles, different problems businesses have been solving within GE. I mean, right now it may not be obvious, but GE was literally doing everything from finance, from owning banks to, at that time, I was even assigned to be in the Universal Pictures studio rotation, because GE was actually the owner of the Hollywood studios. And all the parks were actually underneath General Electric, so GE. So for me, I mean, the question, how did I cope with that? Again, I was young and fresh after university, and I have to say, it was tough, demanding, stressful. But on the other hand, I was 25, 26. And I traveled the world. I traveled, first class. I traveled to all the countries in the world, all the continents, because that was actually the idea of the global program. That when you said we did a monthly assignment, so there was always 3 months 3 assignments per year, so 4 months, and it was like in the US, in South America, in Africa, like literally everywhere. That was it was demanding, but for me it was fun, and that was important for me.
Did you experience any hard moments where you had some doubts, thinking, okay, what the hell, what I'm doing here? I'm not sleeping again. I'm flying somewhere. Yes, it's first class, but I think it can get tiresome after some time, right? Or was not the case for you?
I think it was not the case because I don't know if it's a function of the age, because I think you're much more flexible when you're 25 than, when I'm now 45. So if I had done that same job, maybe I would have looked at it differently than at that time. But for me, it was really fun. I mean, for me, it is always because I'm a very social person. So for me, the team was like crucial, and I had a really good team. I mean, the total team was something like, I don't know, 150, 200 like people on the global basis, out of which I think 2 of us were from Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, if I can remember. And it was just fun. It was, like the cliche, work hard, play hard, but it was really fun, and that always, flushed away any situations you had with, stress and bad mood and what the hell am I doing here? But yes, I had situations, and that's where I actually eventually decided to finish. Is that really it was too much for me because it like happened to me. I woke up and I didn't know where I was, whether it was in Dubai, New York, like literally it's, sometimes we've traveled all these fancy countries, but the only thing I saw was the hotel room, because I didn't even see the street, and the room and the meeting room or the taxiway to the office. But again, it was fun, and I was young and I enjoyed it.
Any interesting lessons that you can share, because really you, considering the tremendous opportunity that you had, right? Because you were quite young person, and working for this corporate audit staff means that you were then in the same room as the top tier executive officers. You were dealing with them, right? So any interesting stories, insights, or lessons?
I think there was probably this point is probably for me the most defining learning that I used in my later career when I was building the Slovakian business of Slevomat, of the Groupon like. And that was the fact that that program was about that bunch of young people, finance background auditors, were sent to, in my case, for example, I was sent to Bangkok, and at that time there was a question whether GE will enter into acquisition of a number one bank in Southeast Asia. We were the internal team who, been sent there to do a due diligence and do the, financial audit, whether, there's something not smelly in the books. So purely like financial, hardcore finance audit. And then imagine that, in the room you're sitting with in front of a CEO of the bank itself, like 60-year-old Asian guy, totally different culture. And that guy is actually listening to a 25-year, punk, give him advice that, you should not be doing this. This is not a proper way of accounting for certain things. And, we suggest to actually change that behavior and do it differently. And this was, such a tremendous learning for me that, it's not easy, it's not hard, but you need to find a way of, you have 1 month to build trust between you and the other party. You have 1 month to get up to speed with topics, culture, region, country, colleagues that you've never heard before, that you've never met, that you've never dealt with. And all that, in a cocktail to actually learn from it at the technicalities of, for example, the finance accounting, and then be productive and useful in saying, okay, this is something that is a red flag for us, and unless you change it, we cannot proceed further. I mean, we, meaning the GE leadership, with the acquisition. So that was for me learning from, I had no idea what is, I don't know, like some term, and I had to, Google it. At that time, there was no Chat GPT. So, but Google was there, luckily. So we were saying like the Google was the best auditor's tool. So, like from 0 to 100, we had to become experts in a certain area, like a banking environment and in industry in Southeast Asia, especially in Thailand, in Bangkok. And we, had to get up to speed. Otherwise, the counter parties, the actual employees of the bank would never respect us. So that was really a good learning for me, that nothing is impossible to learn in a quick in a short period of time, and then be able to actually deliver something out of that.
This program is really a real life example that with the right attitude and willingness, you can adapt to anything, right? Actually, in my last episode, we spoke that I talk about that many managers are reluctant to hire people who are not experienced in that field. So if they are looking for product manager, then they are looking for somebody who has been in product management for 5 years, 10 years, right? Worrying that without this kind of experience, without this track record, that person would not be able to cope with that. Or if you are changing the industries in your career, it's very challenging, right? Apply for a job that is suddenly in, let's say, automotive, even though before you were in banking or whatever. So this is like a living proof that everything is possible if you just have the right attitude and if you have the willingness to learn, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think for me, it must be fun. If it's not fun, if it's only about money, or something else, always, in my case, it would have been like a short-term experience. So if I have fun and I enjoy it, then, for me, it's a guarantee that this is something longer than short-term.
Yeah. Okay, so very interesting 2 years with corporate audit staff. What happened then? Then you returned back to Prague, right? And you worked in finance. So it was very different, very calming suddenly, no? Wasn't it boring in a sense that instead of traveling different countries, different businesses, different problems, now one business, one country, one type of problems?
Yeah, exactly. That was actually funny. The one thing that actually was a challenge, that I was actually graduating, that was the word, when we were finishing the program, graduating in 2008, and 2008 was the financial crisis. So we, didn't even have an idea whether there will be a job for us anywhere in Europe or anywhere in the else, because, at that time, if you remember, Lehman Brothers, shutting down their business, companies going bankrupt. I myself had a rotation in the UK in the biggest mortgage business when I was an FMP. So it was tough for me to imagine whether there will be a job at all for me. So I was actually glad that there was one in Czech Republic, in Prague. At that time, before Moneta, it was still GE Capital, GE Money Bank at that time. So I was actually glad that I could, come back home and sort of calm down in terms of the demanding of the job. And then, yeah, you're saying it right. For me, like in the beginning, it was frustrating that how come that person is not answering my phone or email, 10 p.m., in the evening? How come that person, goes home at 4 or 5 p.m., in the afternoon or in the evening? But I think I got used to it. I think that for me it was important that at that time it was still like GE still has been known for a performing culture and a good culture, and I think it is still valid, even though whatever reputation damage we've been reading about in the last few years. And that's what I enjoyed, and I think I spent in various leadership finance positions in the Prague office, in the Prague headquarters, and then I think that was my last corporate career before I moved to build the little, going from like a huge corporation to building something small.
But even though we call GE as a corporation, I can confirm that the culture was very specific, very, very different. Yeah. Usually when people think corporation, they imagine something that is very, very lazy, very conservative, very laid back, very resistant to change. Now GE was very, very different, right? The culture that Mr. Welsh was pushing forward was really the culture of change, the culture of performance. And there was we were always trying to find ways how to improve something. Just imagine we had this 3 planning cycles in a year, and with each planning cycle you were supposed to over-deliver on the on the past plan and come up with a new plan that was even more ambitious, right? And it was going step by step by step, and it was very demanding, but it attracted certain sort of people, right? And it was great sort of people, and I can say that we both enjoyed working with these guys, and it's a great lesson. And after that, everything suddenly sounds a little bit more laid back, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I think that that what was typical for GE. I think all around me, the people were, or GE culture. There was people smart people, definitely. Hardworking people, and people sort of with the right attitude, and that was given to the cocktail of actually the high performance culture and the specificity of the culture that actually why do we think such a culture was not present in, I don't know, any other corporation? Maybe it was, but for us it was something attractive, I guess, for both of us that we stayed. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't seen this kind of culture anywhere else. I've seen some already, but this was really specific. And when you meet somebody, sometimes you can guess and tell, okay, this person maybe has the same background as I do, because you observe the same patterns, the same style, the same approach to solving the problems, and etc. So I think the GE is really deep inside us, although right now it's it's not
behind us.
It's behind us, and the company is behind its peak for sure. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that this was your last corporate assignment. So what happened then? What was your next destination?
Well, I got a call.
It usually happens like that.
Yeah, there was a call, and when I first answered the call, it was for me at that time, I thought I'm living the best life I could have ever lived, right? I had my career drawn up GE. We planned the career, so my line was clear. This is what you're gonna be in 1 year. This is what you're gonna be in 2 years, and I liked it and I enjoyed it. So when I was taking the calls, yeah, right, but we can talk, whatever. So we did talk actually. And then, long story short, it actually attracted to me very much, but not from the point of, I went from a huge corporation with where I was I knew that I will have a big role in 2 years, and I had a good brand in like my personal brand at GE because of the 2 programs that I went through. So I was very comfortable in that situation, and then I should step in a completely, like a Czech startup, having some traction already, and then do, like there was a big step for me. But the decision factor for me was again the people behind it, and they, like from the first call and from the first meeting. There was another one. Where we just discussed, still, no pressure, no commitment, but we're still, having debates, and this is what it would take if you would have joined us. I think we met for 3, 4, 5 times, and then I finally decided that okay, I want to take the risk and leave my comfort zone, being at GE. And try this one. And at that time, I actually didn't know at all that I end up living in Slovakia and building the Slovakian business. Because at that time, I was actually hired or asked to join the team of the shareholders of Slevomat Group. And I was overlooking the portfolio of Slevomat. At that time, it was like Slevomat in Czech, Slevomat in Slovakia, Slevomat in Hungary, and they used to own also Baltics, so Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that the reason why you were leaving your comfort zone were the people. That just to me just doesn't sound as just enough motivation, because in GE there was also a bunch of good people. And you said in GE your career path was kind of not, let's say, known or predictable, and there were a lot of opportunities. If I take my career as an example, right? I started in finance, but then I moved to the sales, the business development, then to product management and so on. Because the company was so big, there were many opportunities, and you were actually able to even to switch the ladders, so to jump from finance to another business line, right? So and it was quite unique and quite comfortable in a way, knowing that you have these opportunities. If you perform, if you have good personal brand, as you said, then it was kind of granted that you will get a new opportunity. When there were troubles with in the insurance business line, they asked me to take over and deal with that stuff. So there is opportunities. So going out of this nice big group, because those days it was still very healthy, although there were already some cost cuttings and so on. But still, it was a very, very safe place to be, right? So to say, okay, I will go out of this, and just because of the bunch of people, to me, just I'm suspicious that there was something more.
I think I was trying to think it definitely was not money, because I was actually I think I was better paid in GE, so it was not money. But I think it was something.
GE was not, the good payer anyway. So
yeah, it was. But, well, for me, when I was 27 at that time, or 28. No, I was much older. I was 30, I think. But I think the attraction, other from the people I met and seeing their vision. I think it was something related to the fact to try and see the impact of your own doing,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying I didn't have an impact at GE or in a corporation, but the impact is different. You know, you do like a good job and you save a company, you know, millions in fines or millions in you know, savings. But this is not really what you know, see. It's somewhere, you know, it's in an Excel sheet, you know, sell B 125 and wow, you know, you spotted it. So I'm not saying that you cannot make an impact or a difference in a big company. But I think the attraction for me was to actually try and see and look what I could contribute to when it comes down to you know, something less exposed in terms of the size of the company. And I think there was like the cocktail with the people that at that time the majority shareholders. I think that was it that led to my decision to actually quit and join them.
Okay, so you started within like, you know, the group of the investors, not knowing that one day you will end up in Slovakia. So how did that happen? That you moved from Prague to Bratislava?
It happened that you know, I was like the investment manager for the portfolio, and I was looking at you know, at that time Czech was, you know, never Czech Slavomat really never had any problems. It was like, you know, they started, they've been number one, and they continue. You know, it was like a typical ice hockey stick. I mean, there was some, you know, bumps on the road, but you know, there was a simple story, and we somehow wanted to reproduce that story to other countries, because in the other countries it was, you know, far from that. I mean, far from that. And I was starting to actually looking at the portfolios and the different countries, and trying to figure out whether there is a chance we can duplicate or replicate the success that we've seen in the Czech Republic. And I started to, you know, move and live with the other businesses in the other countries. So I spent in Hungary maybe a month or two with the leadership, with the you know, CEO and the founders. Then I spent you know, the same time in Slovakia, same time in the Baltics, and then there were a couple of decisions taken afterwards. So we've written off the portfolio completely in the Baltics. And there was a question: what do we do with Slovakia? Because we were struggling there, you know, and the question was whether, at that time, whether is it good to, you know, remain in that market,
save it or close it,
save it or close it, and put the money rather in the Czech business, and you know, accelerate the Czech business even more. So that was the question. So, and I was in Slovakia for some times. Wanted to learn what the answer would be, or what my suggestion would be, and at that time I saw like a big potential in the country, in the market. So the decision at that time was, okay, so we're not shutting it down, but we need to, you know, turn the company around. And so what do we do? So the original role of myself was that I was supposed to help the leadership to actually navigate the company in a way that it would be sustainable and it would go from, you know, zero to whatever, and potentially look for another leadership team. And then, so we've been looking, but we didn't find anyone. And then I said, okay, you know, guys, forget it. I'll do it. You know, so get a replacement for me, and I'll you know, move to Slovakia, and I'll try to do my best and see what, you know, comes up.
Okay.
So that was the story.
And that was 2015.
14,
right?
yeah, 14, 15, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what were your first steps? Because I think that's very interesting question, isn't it? Because you were now responsible, because it's very different, right, to be advisor or somebody who's the smart guy coming from the outside and just giving, like, you know, some nice
in
tips.
a shirt and polo sweater.
Yeah, and the local management is saying, okay, what kind of an idiot, you know, we know better, right? So now you were in the business, now you were in charge. What was your game plan? How did you find the way towards the growth?
I think and it was exactly what you were saying. I was in their eyes, I was like a dodgy idiot from Czech who thinks he's the smartest. And there was it was one of the toughest times that you can have as a person, because you come in an environment where people by default don't like you because you want to change something.
Yeah. You are the apostle. That's coming. Is the apocalypse, right?
Yeah, and especially in the fact that you're coming at a time when us employees at the time, I think it was like something like 15, 20 employees there. Was everything going perfect? Like why would we need to do something differently than what we? I mean, look, we had revenue, we were growing quite significantly. That was true. And then why is this Czech guy coming and telling us that we need to actually not go right but go left, or not left but go right? So that was tough, and I think for me, how I overcome this, I had a extremly strong belief that there's that the company can be making tens of millions of euros in revenue per year, which was far from it, and there was not a clear picture how to get there. So this, I think, was very important to start it, and then extremely important was to have a team around me that actually trusted me. And that was a learning for me in the beginning, that it was extremely hard to make every existing employee that, hey, we've been doing this, but this is a new plan, and trust me, I'm a smart guy, this will work out. It doesn't work like this, and simply either I had to earn trust or I had to do something. And I have to say I think I didn't earn trust as much as I wished at that time, and I struggled, and there was also my learning in my later career is that number one, if you want to proceed further, you need to have people that trust you, because you can't do it otherwise. So what started to happen is that people, I like in the first year or two, I exchanged, I think, 80% of the entire team. So 80% of at that time, 20 people. I mean, half of it went because they didn't trust me. So they just, no, I don't want to be in a company that goes bankrupt in a year with this guy. And the other half of that 80%, roughly, was that they had to be let go because I needed to have people on board that trusted me, not only pretending to be trusting me, but really trusting me. And I think that was the most important for me when I look back. That was the ingredients for the future success, to have people on board that are on the same boat as I was.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you said that, really, because when I'm talking to some managers, leaders in companies, they kind of have this sort of belief that when it comes to transformations and substantial changes, there can be some nice win-win situation. Yeah, that just announcing to the employees the new plan means that it's going to happen. And they are not willing to admit themselves that sometimes, you have people in the organization that are just not in line with the vision of the future, right? And sometimes you just need to do the changes, organizational changes as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned basically the two things actually. That one, that is important to have, real belief in what you do, because when you have this kind of belief, then you radiate that. People see it. It's not enough, as you said, but it's super important for those who are willing to go and follow basically the new path, the new strategy that they see, because there are many obstacles on the way. There will be some bumps and so on, some hurdles, and that the team needs to overcome. And the person they are looking to for support, for the trust, for the belief, is their leader, right? So if you are radiating that kind of belief, that's a must-have. And the second thing, yes, you can. You should try to win the trust of the people. Yeah? I always say people need to get the chance, right, to be part of the new game. That's fair. They've been for some time in the company. They for sure, have achieved a lot of things, and they deserve this kind of chance. But if you see that they are not basically going along, that they are rather sabotaging your effort, it's unfortunately time to make a change in the organization. And that's a nasty truth, and you can not run away from that, because if you do, then you are not making any kind of change. Yeah, win-win doesn't unfortunately exist. The change is tough most of the times.
And actually, my learning from that time is that I know now if someone seems toxic, that person is toxic. There's no let's wait and see. Maybe this will change. Maybe he's feeling or she's feeling, something that I don't see. Yeah. Actually, one thing I regret maybe that I don't do the same mistake again. For me, when someone seems toxic, it is toxic, and having that person on board, for longer time is actually damaging the whole team. One person is damaging the whole 19 other team members. So that's important. That getting rid of people is actually one of the biggest part of building a culture that, as a CEO, you want to have. Because hiring is always guessing. You'll see that the guy seems to be smart. Has smart answers to your questions, but then that's why there's a trial period to see whether it'll work. So it's always guessing, even though you have the most sophisticated questions and most sophisticated tests. It's still you don't know, but letting people go is actually it's extremely powerful tool for even the entire organization, so they see who's the role model, who's not the role model, who does the CEO promote, who does he not promote, and what he wants to say with it. So for me, the learning was no matter how the person is good at sales, everyone telling me you can let this guy out because 80% of our revenue is depending on him or her. That's just an example. It's the biggest bullshit I've experienced. There is so that's my learning at that time, because I try to be nice at that time, nice in a way that let's give another chance, another 6 months, another 9 months, another 12 months, and then I saw that the damage is actually broadening and extending. So just learning.
Yeah. What are the traits of the toxic person? How you define toxic person?
How do I find? I'm trying to look sort of. I don't sound like a class book, but from my own experience, if I look at that particular person or persons, I think that person. I mean, for me, like always, that's even the three things that I look in any person that I mentioned already in what it was specific to the GE culture. For me, a person, must be smart. Number one, that person was smart, so check. Number two was the attitude, and number three was the willingness to work hard. Not always, but sometimes. For me, the early indications of a person starting to be toxic is that there is some damage to those 3 points for me. That person was smart, as I said, but I started to see attitude, and indications of, there's no need to work, so much when, you say it needs to be so. And I think those 3 for me are the pillars that also everyone else in the team sees, so they see very much if that person is slacking off, quote unquote, or that person his or her attitude is it's a bullshit, but I do it, okay, whatever, you think, I think it's, crazy and stupid, but I'll do it, and people see it, even though, someone would be thinking that, it's only about me and that person, like one-to-one. I mean, the learning from me, or the learning on my side at least, is that no, it's exposed to the entire team, and then this is how I started to find that there's something toxic about the person compromising or compromising on my vision that I had, and compromising on the fact that the vision is actually making sense, and the vision is there to achieve some sustainable, growth, and that person was not in the same boat, was actually swimming the other direction. That's when I realized the person is toxic. But I didn't realize that person need to be let go much earlier.
During your answer, actually, it reminded me that going back to GE again. In GE, we used to have this evaluation matrix, and it was 2 dimensions. There was performance and values, right? And I think it was quite actually powerful tool how to assess people, because managers quite often look on just the one dimension, the performance, right? And they do not think that much about the values, which is basically where this toxicality is then coming from, or you can see that. And this is where the person can be either supportive to your mission, to the business, to other peers, or not. So maybe actually again, it's the learning, it's the experience that we had in GE that maybe is helping us to have better view on these problems, right? Okay, so with Slavomat, Slovakia, moving that from zero to the growth through change of the people and etc. Actually, any other interesting lessons that you can share with the audience, what besides that the team is the number one enabler?
No, I think looking back at the Slovakia, building the Slovakian Slavomat, you mean? I think there are 2 aspects of the success there. I think number 1 was the team, and number 2, and I'm not saying this is a guidance on how it should be done, but this is just what worked for us, is that I believe that the deciding factor why Slovakia grew so much, it actually grows even more than the Czech business now, is that we've taken the decision from Prague to Bratislava. because when I was joining Slovakia, it was just a region of Czech Republic, right? So decision have been taken, or idea generating, brainstorming, all the processes and decision taking had been happening at the Prague office, the Prague headquarters, and then Slovakia just adopted it, right? And I think that was that was the number one, along with the team, for me, decision that take the decision from Prague to
locally,
Bratislava, to local team.
To be present really where you do the business.
Yeah. So not only the competence, but also the responsibility. But because what was happening? Okay, so they came up with this idea in Prague, but they didn't realize that it doesn't work in Slovakia. But I don't care because I don't feel responsible because it was not my idea. So whatever. Yeah. So I think that was a big thing. And I think that number one, probably because that, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't build up a team around me sharing my vision that, okay, this is now our business, our responsibility, our chance to show the world that even like small Slovakia oftentimes, look through the fingers from Czechs that Slovakia has always been behind and so on. I mean, this is reality. If you talk to both Czech or Slovak people, and I think that was number one, the decision shift, and then building the team. Yeah, so that's probably the two.
Yeah. I think the coherence is
enablers.
Yeah, the coherence is really interesting element because I've actually observed that through my career as well. So when I wanted to make really substantial change and shift some business line and so on, it always helped to have the team with the mood okay, we are the warriors. We are here to fight and win the battle. We will show the world, we will show the management and the head office that we can do it. And this kind of attitude is very powerful, actually. Okay. So then you achieved your ambition in Slavomat, in Slovak Groupon. So was time for change, or what was next then for you?
The next was I actually realized I was there 8 years. So 8 years I was building 7 or 8 years. I was building the business, and I realized that I wanted to see if I can start a business on my own, right, from zero, totally from zero. And I wanted to try it. I very much liked, I think I could have been there until retirement if, I was led to be. But I think for me it was the right time to actually leave, and I planned to, travel a little bit and get some rest and think and whatever, you can do after you finish your CEO job. But still, the question was, for me, I wanted to do something on my own. I didn't know exactly what. I only knew that I want to do something in the similar industry. And I think I traveled for maybe 6 months. I plan to do nothing for a year or two minimum, but then it's extremely boring. So after, I think, 4 or 5 months, I started to actually work again on the idea that I'm actually building right now.
Okay. So what's the idea, and how different it is to build your own company compared to building somebody else's company?
It's very much different, even though I thought, again, it's what, like 1 year year. We actually launched the product in the summer, so it's like brand new on the product. But we've been developing the product for maybe 6 to 9 months before. And initially I thought like, what could be different? Like I've seen team grow or the company grow from 15 or 20 employees to whatever 100, 120. So what could it be different going from 0 to 10, right? And then it's a totally different game. And again, a lot of learnings I've made, and it is really something totally different. And it's, on one hand, it's hard in a sense that as a CEO you have people, right? And everyone in the company is smarter than you on a different topic. Otherwise, I wouldn't have hired that, guy. So literally, I was the dumbest person in the company. And whether I wanted to have some data points for decision, I would be talking to my team. And now there's no one to talk to. There's no one to talk to. No one to talk to in a sense, okay, prepare 3 scenarios and let's take decision on which one we proceed. So this is different. On the other hand, sometimes you are stuck in the shareholders' decision that not always clicks with you 100%. I mean, for me, the experience was that before the exit, Slow My Group got exited in 2017, and before that, there was 100% click, alignment on the vision, myself and the shareholders. So there was absolutely great experience for me. But then after the acquisition, my picture of where the company should go started to differ from the picture of the new owner where the company should go. And this is better now because, I have the freedom of, okay, I'm the founder and
you don't run any kind of committees or?
Yeah, no, I don't. And this is the freedom in taking decision is so much, so much fun. And so much, motivating that it is the good side of starting, your own business. But then, yes, I need to go from the ground up and talk to people, taking advice, listen, learn, and that's another, chapter what I'm trying to do in the last almost 2 years.
Yeah. It's a good observation, right? Because as you said, when you are in the company, you have a team around you, and if you need something, some data points, you just ask somebody to do that. If you want to have some marketing campaign or whatever, you just assign it to somebody, right? Now you just assign it to yourself or to people that you hire, which is another important difference, right? Because right now you are not dealing with money of someone else, but you are dealing with your own money. So you have to really think very well where the money goes, how you want to invest.
And another funny observation is what is hurting my ego, in a fun way, is that when I was a CEO, I was used to that people called me for advice, and then no one started to call me. I was it's no one calls me anymore, and this is hurting. This is I'm laughing at it, but this is something I realized that no one is irreplaceable, right? So no one can think, okay, I'm the CEO of a CEO, and then without me, the company will go south. But that was another observation that I made. Okay, it's sad now, and I need to get used to it. That people, don't call me anymore for advice, or even decision. Do decision. And when I was in the role, I tried, I had a rule. I don't want to do like operational decisions, right? I wanted to do like one decision a month, right, and do the rest your team. And I realized that I found it nice that they wanted to get my view and opinion on it, but the decision was on them, right? And then I found it, okay, you go again, and you know what I tell you, but it's up to you. And sometimes, it gets on your nerves, but then when you don't have it, it's even more frustrating. That's okay, now I'm, totally alone in the sea, and I need to either swim to the other side, or I will just drown. So we'll see if I will make it to the next, to the other side, or if I drown.
Yeah, that kind of actually resembles my own experience, my own feelings. I actually, quit the corporate world twice. So when I did it for the second time, I already knew what to expect. The first time it was kind of like a little bit like surprise. Yeah, that as you said, one used to be always like in the loop. People calling you, okay, go for a coffee, discuss something, go for a lunch, discuss some business advice and so on. But when you kind of step out of the social circle of the bubble within the company, you suddenly realize that now they have another people to go for coffee break and so on. The true friendships survive that. So it's actually looking back was a good moment, because I was not only able to realize that, but also to identify who are the people who are real friends, people who support you, who stay with you, and who are just opportunistic. I don't want this to sound kind of sad. It's just how it is. It's interesting, as you say. It's kind of funny in a way, right? It's how life goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So you are now building your own company. Perhaps that's for the benefit of the audience. Can you just say in a couple of sentences what it is about, what you are building now?
We're building. I'm actually, when I was saying that I have no one to talk to, I actually, have the privilege of having actually a tech co-founder. So it's a technical product, like a software. So, and I'm me as not being a tech person. So I have someone to talk to, and we're building. Two of us are building a product for companies for streamlining their needs to organize any company events, team building, offsites, conferences, whatever that be. And then on the other side, so we're connecting companies with venues, especially hotels. And then on the other side of the equation, we're helping the venues to maximize their capacity and maximize their potential for revenue from conference spaces.
Okay.
So that's what we're building.
Cool. That sounds like what you said that you kind of stayed in the industry. So you are.
But this time B2B. It was purely B2C back then. This time is purely B2B. Mm-hmm. But but the industry, the hospitality and travel tech is the same or similar.
Okay, so fingers crossed. Growing this in the same way, at least in the same way as you did with Lavomat in Slovakia. And I think maybe we should catch up in future to see how it goes, because I think for people who are maybe considering the switch of the career from 9-to-5 job, starting own business, the insights from building that would be quite interesting, right? So actually, in the meantime, how people can get in touch with you if they are interested.
I have a LinkedIn account, so Aleš Mlátilík, or they can. And I think I have an email address there in a like a public contact info, or I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I'm everywhere.
Whatever.
I'm
Okay.
everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Okay, good. So I think I will put the links into the podcast episode description, so that people can get in touch with you if interested. So actually, it was great to have you on the show, to see you again after this and discuss some of the past experiences that we had together, and share your interesting journey and insights from your career. So thank you so much.
Likewise, it was pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Cool. So, in a case that you like the content that we do in Change Talks, please do not forget to give the talk show the 5-star rating. Follow us, because that helps actually the algorithm to push this content to more people who are just like you. So have a great day. Until next time, and make the change work.